My name is Nathaniel Levy, and all my life I have been a devout teacher of the Torah. I grew up in a family deeply rooted in Jewish tradition, devoting every day to the study of Scripture and passing down the teachings of the sages of Israel. But nothing had prepared me for what I was going to experience that evening, an evening that would turn everything I thought I knew upside down. It was Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, a sacred time when we stand before God seeking His mercy and purification. As I was about to chant the solemn prayer of Kol Nidre, a searing pain seized my chest. Everything went blurry, the faces around me faded, and I sank into darkness. What I saw would change my life forever. When I opened my eyes, I was no longer in this world. I was in an indefinable space, bathed in a light of indescribable purity. Time no longer existed, and yet I perceived every moment with absolute clarity. It was as if my soul had been ripped from my body and thrown into another reality, one truer than anything I had known before. A new consciousness invaded me. I was dead, but strangely, I felt neither fear nor anxiety. On the contrary, a deep peace surrounded me, as if a benevolent presence welcomed me. I realized then that I was having a near-death experience, but what would follow was far beyond anything I could have imagined. Before me appeared three beings of immeasurable majesty. They were neither men nor angels as we understand them. Their presence was overwhelming, their wisdom unfathomable. They seemed to be guarding ancient knowledge, knowledge too great to be fully grasped by the human mind. Without saying a word, they made me understand that I was here for a judgment, an unveiling that would call into question everything I had taught. My heart sank. All my life, I had searched the scriptures, seeking the truth, instructing the disciples in the rigor of the Torah. But in this sacred place, faced with these beings whose holiness was beyond my understanding, I felt naked, vulnerable, like a child facing a truth far too great for him. Then the faces of my past appeared before me. My grandfather, whose words still resonated in my soul. My teacher, Rabbi Kaduri, whose erudition had inspired me so much. They stared at me with solemn gravity. It was then that I realized that what I had preached all my life was going to be put to the test. Every word taught, every belief passed on would be weighed in light of this eternal truth that I could no longer ignore. The silence became heavier, a sacred expectation suspended. My being, what would be revealed to me? What truth was I about to discover? Then before me, an ancient scroll appeared, floating in the ether, as if held by an invisible force. The letters glowed with a golden glow, and although I had never seen this text before, my soul instantly understood its meaning. It was the scriptures, but arranged in a way I had never seen. Each verse, each word fit together perfectly, revealing a hidden message that had eluded generations of scholars. My heart raced as my eyes followed these sacred words. Yeshua is the Messiah. A wave of shock ran through my entire being. How was this possible? All my life I had taught that the wait for the Messiah was still pending, that the one the nation spoke of was only a false prophet. And yet, this sacred parchment before the eyes of the watchers revealed to me a truth that I dared not accept. I wanted to look away, refused to admit what I saw, but something powerful, a divine presence, held me back. It was as if every cell of my being was imbued with this revelation. My grandfather and Rabbi Kaduri stared at me with disturbing intensity. There was no anger in their eyes, only deep sadness, as if they knew, as if they had always known, but the time had not come to say it. A voice, soft and penetrating, resonated within me, without any mouth uttering a word. The truth has always been there, hidden from those who do not want to see. And then I saw the prophecies that I had studied all my life pass before my eyes. Isaiah 53, Psalm 22, Daniel 9:26. Everything lined up. Each passage, each letter confirmed this reality that I had denied so ardently. Then I remembered the words of Moses. The Lord your God will raise up for you a prophet like me from among you, from among your brothers. You shall listen to him. Deuteronomy 18:15. All my life I had waited for a Messiah conforming to the traditions of our fathers, an earthly king, a political liberator. But Yeshua did not come to establish a kingdom of men, but the kingdom of God. He had fulfilled every prophecy, and yet we turned a blind eye. My heart sank. I, who had always taught the rigorous study of the scriptures, how could I have missed this essential truth? Had I been blinded by tradition, by the fear of questioning what I had received? A deep pain went through my soul, not a physical pain, but that of a man who sees everything he believed in crumbling. Part of me wanted to reject this revelation, but another part knew I couldn't run away anymore. I looked again at the Watchers, searching for an answer. Their gaze pierced me, filled with this ancient wisdom that was beyond me. I understood then that my journey had only just begun. I had to see what the future held for this world and understand what that truth meant for my people. It was at this moment that everything changed again. While I was still struggling with this shocking revelation, a sudden change occurred. The scroll vanished, and in an instant I was thrown into a new vision. Before me lay Jerusalem, but it was not the city I knew. Something strange was hovering over her. The Temple Mount, this place sacred for millennia, was at the center of indescribable turmoil. I saw crowds gathered, their eyes fixed on a discovery that seemed to upset the order of the world. Beneath the mountain, a secret excavation had revealed an ancient artifact, irrefutable proof that called into question beliefs established for centuries. Humanity was preparing to face a truth that could no longer be hidden. But before I could grasp the full magnitude of this revelation, my gaze was drawn elsewhere. Among the crowd, one man stood out. His charisma was undeniable, his gaze piercing, his voice captivating. He spoke with an authority that seemed to captivate those who listened to him. I felt that this man was not ordinary. He claimed to bring unity, peace, and reconciliation between people. His influence grew at a rapid pace, and many saw in him the fulfillment of messianic prophecies. But something inside me screamed that wasn't the case. An inexplicable anxiety seizes me. This man was not who he claimed to be. He was an imposter, a deceiver, a false messiah who was preparing the world for massive deception. And then I saw something else, an insidious system designed to mark and divide. The Jews, my people, were the main target of this new system. Digital marking was imposed on them, not under physical constraint, but through seduction and fear. Those who refused to comply were marginalized, unable to participate in society. A spiritual separation was taking place, discreet but implacable. The connection to our ancestral heritage, to our faith, was being broken before our eyes, and most didn't even realize it. The enemy did not come with force, but with cunning. Everything was orchestrated to appear harmless, beneficial, necessary, but in reality, it was an invisible chain, a cage disguised as freedom. I wanted to shout, warn, alert those around me, but I was powerless, a simple spectator of a reality that was unfolding before my eyes without me being able to change anything. It was then that I understood the urgency of my message. What I saw was not a distant possibility, but a future certainty. And what would I do with this knowledge? Would I keep it to myself, or would I have the courage to speak out despite the consequences? I felt that the time of my return was approaching. One last thing remained for me to see, how my own people would react to this truth. Everything vanished. In an instant, the light, the vision, the presence of the Watchers, everything dissipated like a breath carried by the wind. Then, a violent shock passed through my body, as if I had been thrown from one world to another. I opened my eyes suddenly, panting, my heart pounding. The worried faces around me were blurry at first, then little by little I recognized the synagogue, the worshippers, my own body lying on the ground. I was back. 17 minutes had passed since I collapsed. 17 minutes where my heart had stopped beating, where my brain should have been irreparably damaged. But there I was, alive, lucid, without any after effects. A miracle. At first, I remained silent. How could I explain what I had seen? Who would believe me? I myself, despite the clarity of this experience, struggled to accept what my mind still refused to admit. But something inside me had changed. My eyes no longer saw the world as before. Every word of the Torah that I read now resonated differently. Each prayer I prayed carried a new intensity. I knew I had been sent back into this world with a mission. I had to testify. I had to tell the truth. Yeshua is the Messiah. But as soon as I started speaking, the storm arose. The looks around me changed, from benevolence to distrust, then to hostility. Heresy, people murmured. Treason. I, who had been a respected master, a spiritual guide for so many disciples, became an outcast in the space of a few days. I was summoned by community leaders, interrogated like a criminal. What did you see? What are you saying? They didn't want to understand. They wanted to silence me. When they realized that I would not give in, that nothing could erase what I had experienced, they made their decision. I was dismissed. The rejection didn't stop there. My family itself was shaken. Some begged me to deny my words, to come to my senses, not to throw a lifetime of teaching into the flames. But how could I deny the truth after seeing it with my own eyes? How could I keep quiet when I knew what was about to happen? I was now a stranger among my own people. The threats soon began. Anonymous letters, silent phone calls, then surveillance. I felt it. I knew that my slightest movements were being observed. They wanted to intimidate me, scare me, force me into exile. But deep inside me, a deep peace remained, because I knew God gave me this vision for a reason. That's when I understood. Persecution was part of the path. Yeshua himself said, "If the world hates you, know that it hated me before you." John 15-18. Every prophet, every servant of God who dared to proclaim the truth had been rejected. But the truth cannot be erased. It burns, it illuminates, and even if it disturbs, it always ends up triumphing. My ordeal was just beginning, but I knew I had to persevere, for what I had seen in this vision would soon come true, and the world must be warned, rejected, threatened, isolated, but not silenced. Despite everything I lost, something inside me burned with new intensity. It was as if this truth that I had discovered demanded to be proclaimed, whatever the cost. I couldn't stay idle, not after what I had seen. The world had to know. So I began to testify, at first in secret, in a low voice to those who were willing to listen. Then, little by little, my voice rose. Through videos, writings, discreet meetings, I shared what I had learned. Yeshua is the Messiah, and everything we had taught about him was a lie. The prophecies were being fulfilled before our eyes. At first, few people paid attention. Many took me for a madman, a renegade, a man fallen into illusion. But then the signs began to appear. In December 2024, news broke in the media. Under the Temple Mount, a secret excavation had uncovered a shocking artifact. What I had seen in my vision was coming true. Suddenly my words didn't seem so foolish. Some intrigued came to question me. Others, frightened, began to doubt what they had always believed. But for the majority, denial persisted. "It's just a coincidence," they said. "A manipulation." As in ancient times, men preferred to turn a blind eye rather than face the truth. Then a man stood up, a religious leader, a captivatingly eloquent orator. He spoke of unity, of reconciliation, of a new spiritual age. His influence was growing at an alarming rate. Those who once despised religion flocked to listen to him. Some were already beginning to proclaim him Messiah, but those who knew the scriptures knew. "For many will come in my name, saying, 'I am the Christ,' and they will deceive many." Matthew 24:5. What I had seen in my vision was unfolding before my eyes. It was no longer a question of years or centuries. We were there. And then the final piece of the puzzle fell into place. A discrete program, barely mentioned in the media, began to emerge. A digital marking system, supposedly designed to make life easier for Jews in certain territories. Presented as an innovation, it seemed innocuous, but I knew what that meant. It was only the beginning, an identity system which, under the pretext of protection and modernization, separated souls from their spiritual heritage. It was not just a technological advance, it was a rupture, a new invisible chain to enslave hearts and minds. Time was running out. It was no longer a question of warning or waiting. We had to act. I knew that every word I spoke put me in more danger, but could I stay silent when everything I had seen was becoming reality? "Go therefore and make disciples of all nations," or Matthew 28:19. This is my role. That's why I came back. What I had seen, what I had learned, had to be passed on before it was too late. What I saw, what I experienced, I can no longer deny. Prophecies are being fulfilled before our eyes, and yet so many people still refuse to accept the truth. But you who listen to this testimony, what do you think? Do you feel this urgency in your heart? Can you really ignore these signs? What we always believed to be the truth was only a veil hiding reality from us. Yeshua is the Messiah, and now we must choose, remain blind or open our eyes before it is too late. Tell me in the comments, what do you think of this revelation? Have you ever had an experience that transformed your view of faith? I would like to read your testimonies and exchange with you. And above all, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and activate notifications, because other essential truths will soon be revealed. If this message resonated with you, don't leave yet. Watch the video that appears on screen now. It contains another revelation that may well confirm everything we just saw. Don't close this page without hearing the rest. May God enlighten you and guide you in this quest for truth.